Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Hoovy186 coming back at you with another video. And there's been some talk around YouTube about rehashings and Skyward Sword and all that other stuff, and Nintendo haters and all that. And I wanted to make this video kind of like to explain my position on Nintendo and why I'm not a fan of theirs anymore. But before I start, let me just say that the first console I ever owned was the Super Nintendo. I chose the Super Nintendo over the Sega Genesis mainly for two reasons. One, and the least important, was the controller. I preferred the Super Nintendo controller over the Sega Genesis controller. The most important reason why I chose it over the Sega Genesis is because I was familiar with the system, and I was familiar with the brand, the Nintendo brand itself. So that's why I chose it. Not saying that the Sega Genesis wasn't good. I think the Sega Genesis was amazing. But I feel confident in my choice because my parents they weren't rich and they don't like video games. So that's a bad combination. Excuse me, I'm kind of stuck. My nose is kind of stuffy. But anyways, what was that? Okay, the game that came bundled in with the Super Nintendo was obviously Link to the Past, and from the minute I got home till like 2 o'clock in the morning, that's all I did was play that game. That's all I did was play that game. And then when I woke up the next morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, on a school day, first thing I did was play that game. And that's all I could think about when I was in school, just playing Link to the Past, telling all my friends how awesome the game is, and they were giving me like tips about the game, because that game was hard. Like, that game was fucking hard. But when I got Mario All Stars in the mail, I played that, and I played two, like, I played the one which looked a lot better than the Nintendo counterpart, and then I got to play, I think, one of the most underrated Mario games, and Mario 2, and my favorite Mario game of all time, which is Super Mario Brothers 3, and and also playing Donkey Kong Country, playing Killer Instinct, which I would consider to be an exclusive, or was an exclusive title, because Rare was part of Nintendo at the time. So many, and the Kirby games and all the other stuff. Like, I will always have a place in my heart for Nintendo, and I will always have a place in my heart for the Super Nintendo as one of my favorite consoles of all time. And that goes without saying. One of the things I liked about the Super Nintendo, however, was that I had options to play great game from many different developers and publishers. So many great developers and publishers. I mean, like obviously the obvious ones like Capcom, Namco, Tecmo, what else? Konami with their soccer games, and there's tons of others. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but that was the thing that I liked about Super Nintendo, was the option to play many different types of games. So when it came time to upgrade to either pick N64 or PlayStation, and I had no choice but to get a PlayStation. Nintendo left me no choice but to get, because even though Nintendo's launch, from where I can believe was pretty awesome. The amount of game that came out for the PlayStation 1, and you have to remember, I'm a big fighting game guy. You had the Tekken series, you had the continuation of Street Fighter with the Alpha series, you had the EX series, the Street Fighter EX series, you had Soul Blade, you had Bushido Blade, which I think a lot of people kind of shit on that game. I liked it. The first one, I never played the second one. I heard the second one wasn't as good, but the Battle Arena games. I mean, I think Urges was a PlayStation 1 title, I believe, but I like it, but my friend, he says that's the best game of all. He said that's the best fighter. I think Tekken 3 is the best fighter on there, so I kind of like the shit on it, but I think that game was really good. But yeah, I mean, my point was, I guess my point is pretty evident. I cannot live off of just playing Mortal Kombat and Smash Brothers. You know what I mean? I needed more than that. And people like to say that Ocarina of Time was the greatest game of all time and all that other stuff. No, I don't think so. If you played Metal Gear Solid 1 and you played Final Fantasy 7, yeah, like to me, those games were better. I'm not saying Ocarina of Time was shit or nothing like that. That game was amazing, and it did set standards for that genre. But when you look at both games, when you look at least I'll compare Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear Solid 1 and Ocarina of Time, and you tell me, anyone out there that's watching the video, which I know is not a lot, but whatever. If you're watching the video, which game represents what gaming is now? Is it Metal Gear Solid 1 or Ocarina of Time? And I'm gonna tell you wholeheartedly that it's Metal Gear Solid 1. With the voice acting, the great cinematics, the amazing, but the confusing but amazing storyline to it. I mean, it's not even fucking close. It's Metal Gear Solid for me all the way because it immersed me more into the experience of what I was doing, more so than Ocarina of Time ever did. And Ocarina of Time is a great game, but best game of all time? No, it's not. And ultimately, what happened was with the PlayStation 1 and N64, I had more options on the PlayStation. So you see, that's my thing. If I have options, I'm going to go with the system. If I can only buy one, I'm going to go with the system that gives me the most options to play the most, the different types of games out there. And the N64, especially near the end, did not give me that diversity. I'm not saying that the system didn't have good games, because they had a lot of great games. But the sheer quantity and quality of the PlayStation 1 games were just too much for me to ignore. So when the PS2 came out, obviously the hype machine behind that was humongous. That hype killed the Sega Dreamcast. Even though I like the Sega Dreamcast a lot, but when the PS2 came out, so many different games, so many great games. This is where I noticed Nintendo's stupidity when it comes to how they handle their how they handle business. They come out with the GameCube. GameCube is a great looking device. My only beef with the device, like as far as design, is the color. But overall, it's a great, or at least the original color. But overall, great machine. It was a great machine. And but the problem is their library of games outside of the multiplats, I didn't care for at all. Like when everyone was jizzing the Pikmin, I was like, what the fuck are you guys? What the fuck is this game about? I don't give a fuck about this game, Pikmin. And Metroid, I've never been a fan of Metroid at all. So that didn't interest me. And I had a GameCube. I had a GameCube. I didn't buy it, but it was in the house, and I bought really the only game that I can really, in my opinion, that I can consider great on that console. Well, at least to me, was Mario Kart Double Dash. I love Mario Kart Double Dash. That I paid for that. I paid the $44 for that game, despite the fact that it was out about 2 years after the fucking game came out. I paid the money because I knew that game was gonna be good. And I did buy other games for it. I did buy other titles for the GameCube, but ultimately, when I had the PlayStation 2, that's the only console I played. That's the only console I cared about because they had the games that I cared about. Options. Tons of great games to play. The GameCube didn't offer me that at all. Hell, I got Mario Sunshine for free and I never fucking touched it. Never touched it. You want me to tell you how shitty the GameCube is? Like, their library did not interest me in the least bit. where I could get a fucking game for free and I never played because I was too busy playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I was too busy playing Tekken 4 or Tekken Tag or Tekken 5, whatever one you want, whatever one at the time frame. You know, Soul Calibur 2. Other games. I'm trying to think of the library that I have. Well, you guys get what I'm saying. And again, 10 minutes long. I wonder how many minutes I have, but I wonder how many minutes I have left. But and then you know, like so I actually thought that the GameCube, I actually thought that Xbox was better than the GameCube because at least with the Xbox, I got to play Halo and I got to play some multiplayer because you know the multiplayer on the Xbox for some games played better on the PlayStation. Like for fighting games and stuff like that, I will only play it on the PlayStation. But you know, racing games and stuff like that, I would play on the Xbox. At least the Xbox had some value for me, unlike the GameCube. And then the Wii comes out. This may have to be a two-parter, by the way. But then the Wii comes out, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna save the Wii for the second video. All right, so stay tuned for part 2 of my video. All right, peace.